Easy E.
Shawnee,
How are we?
I am good. I am well. I'm just off my holiday, so I'm not going to lie. And the belly on me, oh boy, I ate my way around my staycation. Anyway, that's for sure.
Well, I'm delighted for you. I'm delighted for you.
Yeah, I didn't. I only put on the runners to walk. I think they're just called walkers now, but they're good. They're good. But they're well broke in anyway for training starting back tomorrow.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. I never thought I'd say this, but on your advice, I was listening to that American country music singer Cody Jinks talking about whiskey and broken relationships and light at the end of the tunnel may not be in trains and stuff like that. And all the rain and the thunder going for a 10-mile run there in the middle of nowhere. Not too sure what I'm building my training up towards because I am effing fuming over the Dublin Marathon being cancelled. But we will not piss and moan during this episode of the podcast. Instead, in today's episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about alternatives to the Dublin City Marathon this year. Maybe it's the virtual, maybe there's other events going on. We sent a story and a post out to our Any Given Runday Run Club as well as on our Instagram group to help us give feedback for you guys on what you could be doing, what you could be building up towards instead for your goals. Or you could do what Eric does and just stick on a pair of walkers and go walking for the rest of the summer. Either way, we'll talk a bit more after the intro. Here we go. Holy water, he calls the whiskey. Isn't that the Irish name for it?
Yeah, well, no, it's water of life, really, over here. But, either way, like,
yeah, it all means the same thing. I don't know if I was enjoying it so much, or just I was just easy listening to as the mind just started wandering one of those runs and just trying to get out there and do something. But I mean, the long and short of it is I don't have an exact plan for it on my end, but I've said to a few people before, I've ran a Dublin Marathon now 3 years in running, and last year was the virtual. And just because I won't get into it too much detail because I have before in the podcast, just doing the virtual and having my dad as the pacer for the last 10K, making an event out of it that way, it was by far my favourite marathon so far. So I do think there is things you can do that way.
Yeah, it was. It was a bit disheartening. Now, I did actually bring the runners because if the green light was given or if we heard good news, I was actually going to do a bit of training. But as soon as I heard there was nothing going to happen, that was it. The wheels, I don't even know where one of the wheels of the wagon is. Wheels have very firmly come off the wagon. But it was nice in a way to just kind of switch off about it and just enjoy the holidays. But training will start tomorrow. I'll find that wheel. It's somewhere, but I definitely ate weight. But I think for people like myself, I need an event. I need something to train towards. A lot of people say, you know, it's kind of selfish. You're just doing it for the pat on the back, or you're doing it for this or that. But I actually just need the event for that sense of achievement, that target on the calendar. That's something to train towards. So yeah, we just kind of have to get creative now, and a lot of people have been getting back to us. There are other options. You know, the Dublin Marathon is not the be all and end all. And in actual fact, a lot of the local organisers of other marathons around the country are probably delighted because people like myself and yourself who love the Dublin Marathon might try do a marathon elsewhere and probably fall in love with them. And the Dublin Marathon won't be such the highlight of the calendar. So yeah, it is a bit funny. It's hard not to train without something to train for. But we just have to get creative now and start probably getting together as a group in our run club and set a date that we're all going to take on a marathon.
What this is, I mean, the difference between this year and last year, hopefully, is because, I mean, I just got a text today saying my first vaccination is coming in on Thursday. So like everyone can be vaccinated by October or even September when these events go ahead. Whereas last year, like the week of the Dublin Marathon, the 5K rule came back in. You know, with all these vaccinations and stuff going on, I'd like to think we'll never go back to that stage of running within your 5K and everything else. And we can have those small groups because we are in this situation. Otherwise, what are we doing with the vaccinations and all the rest? So, I mean, there are a couple of options out there. Like one of the guys put in the stories talking about getting like a group of 10 people running together for a virtual marathon. That is definitely on the table now. You're not going to be judged running in small groups. Well, I like to think you wouldn't be come the end of October. The Run Galway Bay could be going ahead. Someone else in the running group was talking about that. And there has been half marathons that I've heard that have gone ahead like before like we're recording this July. We're half hour away from the Euros final starting. And like there have been half marathons in the last couple of weeks where they've had the stagger starts. Now, some people have been waiting in the starting line for best part of 2 hours to get up and going, which is not ideal, but you know, it's progress. The Wicklow Eco Trail Dara put into the group, so that's going ahead. Hopefully the Dingle Marathon could be going ahead. That was in your neck of the woods where you were on your staycation. You could have been training for that, Eric.
I was training my elbows. That was about all I was training in Dingle. But no, and to be honest, I've never really been to Kerry. And Clare, I was in Clare and Kerry, but I have to say, it would be difficult in terms of the hills and the rolling hills, but it would be the most scenic marathon I'd ever do, and that is without doubt. And it's definitely something that should be considered.
Isn't that it though? I mean, you're looking at something that's doing something completely off the radar, and Dingle could be something scenic. It could be something that you're not doing it for a personal best or anything like that. You're just doing it to enjoy it, and take the time restraint off it. I mean, if you're trying to do break a sub 4 or break 3.5 and stuff. Maybe if you want to have the Dublin Marathon, maybe that's not in the cards. Maybe it is going to more of a hilly marathon like the Dingle Marathon or Belfast. I know Belfast sold out as soon as the Dublin announcement came out, like literally that day, bang, it was gone. But and that's a more of a hilly marathon seemingly than Dublin would be. So maybe if you did get a ticket to that, it's a case of, you know what, let's just enjoy it and get back into doing events and stuff and get closer to a new normal and set your own goals that way. Because like you said at the start of the podcast, Eric, I think it's all about, setting events and having a goal to work towards. And, I could pat myself in the back and say I went out for a 10-mile run today in the lashes of rain just to have a different event or something to look forward to. But at the same time, when I heard the Dublin Marathon was cancelled on the Wednesday afternoon, I was supposed to go for a speed session. I ended up putting it off that night and then sticking on the phone and watching the Euros. England were playing Denmark and watching that while doing a little bit of running the treadmill. But it was nowhere close to what I could have been doing if I knew that the Dublin was going ahead and having that event. I do think the events are great just to have something to aim for. But like people have been saying that they've texting into us or into the Instagram, make your own group, have a couple of mates, build yourself up and make that your own event and have a day built around it where you're all working towards a particular day. And maybe it is the weekend and that and you sign for the virtual, but just have your own set run and stuff. And then, maybe a barbecue or whatever afterwards. The weather's been good. October bank holiday the last couple of years, touch wood, it will be again this year. Just have something to go for. And then when it comes 2022 and the Dublin Marathon's there again, it's like, you know what? I have a much better base than I did last year. So now I can aim maybe even a little bit higher. And that's what my goal is for it anyway.
Yeah, and it is. Look, I suppose it's just very frustrating for people. Like it's been a long time with nothing, and as you said, there are events taking place. I know that when I was on my little travels around the Ring of Kerry, the Hardman in Kerry was happening in Waterville, and again another beautifully scenic place for an event to happen. And like there are little events taking place. I suppose Dublin, given its size, maybe for the organisers, it's not worth the hassle of organising it. So, other marathons, yeah, it's definitely people just have to broaden the scope. It is frustrating now. It is because Dublin is a great marathon too, but it could be really nice for us to get somewhere else. It could be really nice for us to get together in a group. And look, it comes back to everything we say as well, though. Choose your group wisely because you don't want to be running a marathon with someone should be at a different pace to you, because that's when you get into the suffering of the marathon. You don't want to be going at that pace. You don't want to feel like you're holding somebody back, or you don't want to feel like you're being held back. It is something that you kind of have to find out who around you is close to you in terms of ability and training, and you kind of have to just plan who you're going to do your group with, and that's where the likes of Dublin is great, because the pacing balloons every 10 minutes are phenomenal for people, and you have that encouragement. And I suppose the virtual is great because it is something, it happens over a weekend, but there's nothing like showing up to a start line, because once you're at the start line, it's one of those, you're kind of strapped into the roller coaster at that point. There's only one way you're going. It's when you're doing the virtual, if you don't do it, did it ever really happen or not happen? No one knows. Whereas when you shoot the start line, you're locked into the traps and you have to go, and it's the crowds are there, the extra motivation. So look, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to keep an eye on other marathons. around the country, other events. And look, even if it's not a marathon, a half marathon is still a hell of a lot better to get towards, even if there's a small half marathon. Working towards your best half marathon time this winter is by no means a bad feat. Like,
No.
if you're setting your best marathon time or half marathon time, sorry, and you're taking 5-6 minutes off your half marathon, that's a phenomenal training achievement. It's a phenomenal goal to have. And there are lots of smaller half marathons that are happening around the country. So during the week, we're actually going to post up and maybe for the next little while, we'll advertise those different events that are around the country, and try and encourage people to go and try and get ourselves to a couple of them as well, and bring a few people with us. It'd be brilliant. It would be great to see some of these events happening.
100%. And even if you are doing the virtual marathon, these other events can be used as stepping stones, just like the Dublin Race Series is a stepping stone towards building toward that's marathon. But to go back to your point about the virtual marathon, I do think you have to treat it like you are doing the marathon in Dublin, in terms of, letting people know you're doing it, get a bit of accountability, having that set time on the Sunday morning. So when I did it last year, it was like, actually, no, I tell a small lie in this one. It was supposed to be a set time in Dublin at 9 o'clock. And then I was halfway down the road and I was like, I forgot my headphones. It's going to be tough enough to without any headphones in. And I spent like 2-3 hours doing the marathon playlist before, and just having I had like a set list, like a DJ, like certain hours came up at different times. And I was like, I'd be like this part into it. And like when I got to the big hill, nearly 30K in, I had the rocky music in for there. I timed it perfectly, but I know headphones. So to go back to the house, do it. So I started like 15 minutes later. I was supposed to start because of it. But having that kind of set day and event and make it have that event feel. Obviously, you're not going to replicate 200,000 people in Dublin city centre going for that marathon, but you could do something to make it your own. And whether that's doing it for a charity that's a big deal to you, or doing it with people and helping people have their first marathon. There's loads of different things you can do it and be creative and make it mean something to you. Because look, we've talked before about the melon stuff being at the end being good, but regardless of whether people are there or not, regardless if you get a medal or not, setting that goal and achieving whatever that goal is set, whether that's just completing the marathon or under a certain time, it's something to be proud of. So, and it's something to work for and aim for, rather than like going out there running without any specific goals, going for a run. As much as I'm starting to love running now, I do think I need that event or that certain goal to run for.
Yeah, absolutely. But again, not the be all and end all. And like anyone who has been taking the hit, if you need sympathy for it, like I've the wheels have come off the wagon. I haven't done anything. I've been slowed down in the training with everything in the last 3 weeks. I feel like my fitness has fallen, starting from ground zero with no event. But you have to give yourself something. So on Monday, I'm going to pick a date for ourselves, and be it a half marathon best time in the next 2 months, or am I going to go the full 4 months for a marathon? There'll be something targeted from tonight onwards. I'm not going to say it because this podcast is always an omen. I end up doing horrific challenges, but but we'll pick something to work towards. And the idea is not only that, everyone's always on about getting fit for summer. To be honest, for me, when the weather in the late evenings, it's the best time to get fit. It is the best time to get out and exercise. So again, anyone who is a little bit disheartened by it, just be encouraged by the ability that you can get out and do it. Let's use the next 4 months to just train and earn the winter, I suppose, earn the comfort foods, earn the nights that we can let off when the rain is heavy and it's cold in the winter, knowing that we've put in a good summer. And that is always a good little motivator for me, is that if I train hard now, I know my rest is coming through the winter, and it is an additional kind of kick up the bum to get out and get something done and pick a target for yourself.
Yeah, I mean that target itself, like we had a comment in the run group, that target doesn't have to be an event or anything like that. That could literally just be increasing distances and trying to hit those goals. So you're trying to get your first 5K, maybe it's your first 10K, maybe that's your first 10 mile, maybe it's your first half marathon, and just increasing the distances can be something you aim for each and every week, rather than just events itself. But just having that overall target there, whatever it is, whether it's increasing distances, whether it's a PB in a certain distance, whether it's a certain event to do, it's just having something to get you out there training on days you don't really feel like training, because we all have them. We can talk about motivation on Monday and crap like that all we want, but motivation doesn't last. It's building those habits to get out there and having a reason, a focus to going out there and going for those runs or hitting the gym from there.
Yeah, and look, anyone is listening, and if you are struggling for motivation, have a look over our Instagram and Facebook and our group over the next little while. We are going to put in suggestions for people, and we'll probably put in through our run club on Strava our own event just to keep people motivated. So we're going to start with a 10K now in the next 4 or 5 weeks. We'll set a date for it and hope to encourage members just to get out and run a 10K. And we'll take it on from there and hopefully bring people along with us. So if you are looking to be a part of something, do join our Strava club over the next few weeks. We are going to set challenges for people. We are going to keep people motivated as best as we can. Because in the sense of keeping other people motivated and setting the challenge for everyone and the members, it also keeps us motivated. As you'll agree, Sean, when people are watching us, we kind of, when we're free, we kind of have to practice as well. So if you are struggling for anything, do get in touch with us. Or if there's an event you'd like to see. I know Dara is mad for us to run a half marathon over a mountain in Kilkenny down. So certain events that we could do through our club. And we could take people along the way with us. So do keep an eye out, and if you're not a member already, do get involved.
That's not a bad shout. And just before we wrap up this episode of the podcast, I just want to give a shout out to everyone who listened to last week's podcast. Sometimes myself and Eric could just get into shy talks and stuff in this and not think about this going out there to the public, but somehow our episode last week with Jill was the number 2 podcast in the country, which is unbelievable to us. We were like number 2 podcast episode, and we were the top 10, number 10 on fitness podcast episodes as well. Fitness podcasts in total last week. And that's mind-blowing. That's pretty cool. And as much as we're starting to get more comments in like the Instagram stuff and on the group saying, I was out there going for a run, I was listening to your podcast, we're getting to hear that more frequently, which is awesome, but it's never any less humbling to hear that as well. So those that are listening each and every week and those that are commenting, those that are sharing the podcast and everything else to go with it, thank you very much, because myself and yourself, Eric, we do this mostly. We have a routine now every Sunday evening now for the last 4, 5, 6 months where we always get a podcast coming out, and it's not like we're getting paid to do this or anything like that. There's no sponsors in the podcast. We just love talking about running, talking about experiences, whether we do great or whether we mess up, and there's a lot of both there going on. We just enjoy doing it. I enjoy his company and everything else. As much as you give me shit about everything each and every week, I do enjoy doing these podcasts with you. But hearing, like, seeing the numbers go up and seeing people listening to it, it is pretty cool too. And they say a job you really love, you do it for free. Well, we're technically doing it for free right now, but we love doing it. And everyone that does listen, everyone that does come, let us know a sincere thank you.
Yeah, it's been brilliant, and it is nice to see. And Jill's coming on board. It's really showing how things are progressing, and how much people want to listen to other theories on yoga and running and just people talking about sport and like that. Keep throwing in suggestions. We do get suggestions and topics, and we love talking about whatever everyone wants to talk about. It is brilliant. But we'll have to go enjoy watching the Euros and see if football goes home or if it
goes to Rome. It's going home or it's going to Rome. And of course, people listening to already know exactly where it's gone. With that said, we will wrap up this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast, and we'll be talking next week or the week after about Jill's 6-week challenge for the yoga she's going to be doing on that platform, as well as the people tomorrow. Best luck to those tomorrow doing the 6-week running challenge as well. Best luck to you guys. I'm sure the coaches will be on to you pretty soon with your plan if they have not already. And that's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Any Given Runday podcast, guys. Whatever you're doing for the rest of the summer, rest of the year, best luck with those challenges. Hopefully the events and challenges we run on our own Strava group or the different things we're going to put up on our Instagram over the next couple of weeks does help you out. And like Eric just said, feel free to hit us up on Instagram at Any Given Training Day for any suggestions or topics you feel we should be talking about next week or the week after or the week after that or whatever, or coming on to the podcast yourself as a guest. Do let us know. DM us on Instagram at Any Given Training Day. That's going to do it for myself and Eric, guys. Thank you very much for listening to this week's episode of the podcast. Take care.
Bye.